Perhaps it was foolish of me to think that we could hide away forever.
I gotta say, I got a real kick out of this movie. I love myself a good Dracula tale, but I love the way this sort of not flips, I should say, sort of introduces a new angle on the lore, let's say. Brady, I'd love to start with you. This is not your first collaboration with Joe. I loved your work in The Black Phone. I'd love to hear what it was like getting to reunite with him for this film.
What was so interesting to me is when the script came around and I was reading it, I had this sneaking suspicion that I read it before, but I had no idea where from. So what I found out is it's in the same book of the 13th Century Ghost, which is in the same book as The Black Phone. So it was really cool already having read it years before. But with Joe, I fell in love with his stories, and being able to tell his stories to an audience is always a pleasure.
I love that. And so, Jocelyn, for you, I just spoke with Natasha, and I found it so exciting how this was a sort of a dream role for you, in a sense, being a big fan of Dracula and always wanting to play Mina. So what was it like working with her, looking at the source material to really find a new way to bring Mina to life, given this is a different chapter in her life, so to speak?
Yeah, it's so true. She's such an iconic character, and she meant a lot to me when I first read the book when I was like 13. She's a very courageous and modern kind of proto-feminist character. She's like one of the gang, and she's respected for her mind and her contributions and her bravery. But now we cut to 18 years after the trauma of being attacked by the Count, and then being isolated. In our version, she ends up married to Abraham Van Helsing. And so it's really a new, as you say, interpretation, just kind of subverting the expectations that fans of these characters have. And yeah, she's kind of a shell of her former self. She's a very tragic character in this movie. And it was just so interesting to think about her headspace with Natasha, and to think about what this family is going through, her relationship with her boys, and whether or not she still is going to believe Abraham's explanations for everything as she's getting more clarity, as she's getting sicker and sicker.
I love the way that this movie plays with the psychological nature of whether everything's real. I keep hearing everybody describe it as almost like a cult around Abraham, and it does genuinely feel like that in a way. Now, I will touch on the boys and Mina's relationship in a second, but Brady, I'd love to turn to you to talk about Max and Abraham's relationship, because it's one that, as the film goes on and Abraham starts to tell him more about this world, it becomes a little more fraught. What was it like, unlocking that layer of Max and then working with Titus to really find that dynamic?
Well, on paper, it was finding the moments where Max begins to doubt. That was really the hard piece, because you had to find those moments to get there in the storyline. So being able to, have Max as this good soldier who followed his father's every command and never doubted a single thing, until eventually decides that everything that his father, his hero, almost said, has told him his entire life is false. And then he starts to come up with his own ideas and how he's going to take control of the situation. That was just a really, really interesting path in this script. And with Titus, is fantastic. What I find watching this movie with an audience is that his performances can sometimes be comical whenever Max is starting to find out the truth, because of the way that he so brilliantly plays it. But the attitude that he brings to set and the seriousness that he brings is a direct streamline to help Max find out the answers that he needs. And so I thank Titus for that tenfold.
Well, that sounds like a great collaborative experience for you to have had with Titus, and it really turned into some really powerful, but as like you say, a little bit comical scenes as well. And I loved watching that dynamic unfold. So then, Jocelyn, I'll turn to you, because I'd love to hear about finding the dynamic with both Brady and Judah, as Mina is really trying to be there for her sons, but at the same time she has this sickness within her and this still lingering draw that may or may not be to an actual vampire. What was it like finding that dynamic with Brady here and Judah?
Yeah, both of the parents, are coming from a place of sincerely wanting to protect and love their children. But something Natasha and I talked about, and that also that's in Joe's story. There's a line where it says that they brought the old world over with them. And so I think both of them are kind of stuck in this, 20 years prior. They don't know how to parent these kids in any other way than to kind of scare the pants off of them by to just be very, very careful. Abraham is obviously overbearing. Mina is trying to explain his motivations to the kids. But something we talked about a lot is that Max is very much under the spell of Abraham, like having been, indoctrinated from a younger age. And with Rudy, Mina's trying to protect his innocence. And she's very sweet with him and almost treats him like a baby more than she should. And that's something maybe that Max notices and causes some friction between them. But I thought it was really beautiful that Mina is trying to reach out and connect with her kids, even though it's a little too late. I think she realizes that she needs the cognitive dissonance that she's going through. I think she's coming to the same realization that the boys are as she's getting sicker and sicker. And I think she tries to reach out and warn them, but it's a little too late.
And what a heartbreaking too late moment it is when we see what happens for the characters. I'll keep the spoilers free for now. But my very final question, because I see him coming close to time. You both interact with who may or may not be Dracula in this film through the dream sequences, and I'd love to hear what both of your reactions were like when you first saw the actor on set. Given that there are obviously so many different designs they could have gone with, but the one they went with for the film was such a fascinating one and mysterious one in a way.
It was so cool because we both knew who the actor was, Forrest, who's a great person who was filming with us. But yeah, the design choice was super interesting. Seeing some of the shots that they got with Forrest, I really could appreciate the creativity because he wasn't this big blonde hair or this slick back jet black hair. They brought this whole new look to Dracula. And he has he has these eyes. And I thought that by hiding who this monster was a solid choice because it's almost this fear of the unknown in this sense. And that's what I really could appreciate about the Dracula that Natasha created.
Yeah, I think that's just a chance to call out our amazing wardrobe, Abby Martin, our costume designer. The amazing cape was so chic, and Forrest is like 6'5" or 6'7" or something like that. So yeah. So he's very, very striking in this look. And then also the way that Julia Swain, our DP, shot it. I just love how high contrast this movie is. Like we have the sunny, the Western horror, but then we have at nighttime, we have these really cool and dramatic scenes with Dracula and nightmare sequences were so much fun to shoot with Brady and Forrest.
Yeah, the way this film plays with the colors as much as it does with the story and the performances is really, again, just makes for such a fascinating ride. And I really can't wait for people to get to see it and spread the word about it. So Brady and Jocelin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about it. I really do appreciate it. Kudos to both of you on your work.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I've known for a long time that it might come.